Just to start off this video, look at that bus. Look at all this public transit in Port Jefferson. Bus, ferry, and not viewable from here, Port Jefferson Long Island Railroad Station and Bridgeport Metro North Station. But basically we are here today to attempt the longest possible run that can be done by using the combo ticket by the LIRR and Metro North. Specifically, we are doing the ever so fateful Waterbury to Montauk. We have a little bit of overcast weather today. There's like a 50-50 chance it'll rain depending on where we are, but I figure I'm going to take the chance and not wear a coat because I figure most of the time I'll already be in a train. But this particular run is done in compensation for something that was supposed to be much larger, but the person who was supposed to drive me out canceled at the last second. So I figure I might as well do one little interesting trip and try to do a little bit of a vlog about it, similar in the style of Miles in Transit and other channels like that. I mean, over the past year or so, I've been inspired to watch all these different transit adventures that Miles and the group usually upload on like a weekly basis, but this is probably the first time that I'm trying something like that on my own. So should be leaving in about 2 or so minutes. It's a nice Friday morning, 9 a.m. It's not too crowded, or maybe it is because there are probably a lot more cars than people on this boat for today. But we're taking the ferry up because it's much easier to just go up to Bridgeport and take Metro North up to Waterbury than to take Long Island Railroad all the way out to Penn Station and then Metro North up from Grand Central and all that stuff. Kind of fittingly, at the time of recording this, I got a video notification for not directly Miles in Transit, but a RM Transit video that features Miles. So hopefully that's a little bit of a good luck sign for our trip today. And it appears right as we're departing, we're also racing the Osprey 5 off in the distance. Not sure if that's a local fishing boat, if I remember correctly, but I'm honestly not sure what ferry services they offer over there. But the main service that's always been offered at Port Jefferson ever since 1883, according to Wikipedia, was solely between Port Jefferson and Bridgeport, most likely to provide better connections between the two rail services, albeit with a bus connection at the Port Jeff side, whereas Bridgeport, the station is located right next to the terminal. But a little bit about Port Jeff: we have the somewhat iconic smokestacks here. They've gone through a few different owners over the years. We have the boat yard over there. It's where a bunch of people keep their sailboats and occasionally mega yachts, especially around this time of year. As the summer's starting, there's a little bit of a quarry over there. You'll occasionally see a barge or two. Now you got a really nice view of the harbor over here. You can see the dock, you can see Main Street. A lot of people usually travel from places nearby like Stony Brook University to downtown Port Jefferson because of the very vibrant downtown community and the very, I guess, small town feel in a way. You can also see the turn over here. It's a pretty interesting case where when going from Port Jeff to Bridgeport, they have to turn the boat around twice. So this way the front of the boat is facing forward for most of the trip, but then they have to turn it around again. So this way the cars are facing outward once they deboard from the boat. Today we don't have to worry about a car since we're one of the walk-on passengers, since we're just using this to transfer to Metro North. But let's just get one more nice view of the harbor before we get some occasional stock footage and then some rail fanning at Bridgeport. There's one of those mega yachts I was talking about. But yeah. We are now letting it rip, as they say whenever boats are featured in these kinds of videos. Moving a little bit faster on the side. You can also see Cedar Beach in the distance, as well as another oncoming ship. We'll probably be passing by in about 10 or so minutes based on how far out it is. Basically, we're supposed to pass through that little channel between the two ends of Cedar Beach, and then we'll be on the Long Island Sound. And you can kind of see Bridgeport with the power plants off in the distance over there. If I can focus in on it properly. Over there, actually. We are now officially entering Cedar Beach a little bit earlier on the west side than the east. It's really a small channel that we have to pass through over here. Got a good view of the beach, good view of the wave action, I guess. They also just finished going over the general safety tips for being on board. Also forgot to mention earlier that we are on the P.T. Barnum today, which is one of 3 ships that were built for the steamboat company back in 2000, I want to say. I think they were built in Florida, of all places. And for the longest time, it's usually been these 3 boats, the P.T. Barnum, the Grand Republic, and some other third one that I'm probably forgetting the name of, that ironically we're probably going to pass later today. But they recently added a 4th boat about a little over a year ago named the Long Island, which is used to help add capacity on this line that so many people use on a daily basis, where they walk on passengers or where they bring cars over the ferry. I mean, most people usually put their car on here along with the cross-sound ferry between Orient Point and New London, but it's still pretty useful on a daily basis in its own right. Just like that, we have passed the, I guess, 5-mile-per-hour buoy. That's what that says. Now that we've passed Cedar Beach, both sides. We are now in the open ocean, rather just the Long Island Sound, which eventually leads into the Atlantic Ocean. Look far enough down there, kinda. So I tried to get a view on the front of the deck, but apparently that's way too windy and that would interfere with the mic quality too much. As I learned at my catch back at Highbridge, going over the Metro North holiday train, it was a good catch, but the wind kind of ruined all the audio quality. But anyways, we have a pretty cool race going on here between the southbound ferry and a yacht. Not really sure who appears to be winning this race so far. I want to say the ferry is in the lead by a little bit, and also let's see if we can get the name of the ship. It's the Grand Republic. So hopefully we'll see the 3rd or 4th ship during our trip today. Yeah, I definitely want to say Grand Republic is in the lead for this one. Public transit for the win, I guess. Also over there is Stony Brook Hospital, which I believe is the tallest building in the entirety of Long Island, based on how tall it is. Uh-oh, and it looks like the yacht is just overtaking the boat. Public transit seems to be going, I want to say, about 2 or 3 miles per hour slower than the yacht, so the yacht seems to be taking advantage of the speed difference. But yeah, I think it's going to be the yacht. It's going to be the first one to dock. Oh well. There's also some more smokestacks, more of the open Long Island Sound, and a little bit of Connecticut that way. After this, we're just going to head into the lower level, where it's not as windy and a little bit more warm, but we'll save most of the footage for when we get closer to Bridgeport and do some more rail fanning there for our shuttle up to Waterbury. As luck would have it, I made it out to the top deck just in time to pass the other ferry. It's currently running out and about today. Who do we have here? We have the Long Island. We have the newest one of the bunch. Passing by over there. Not racing anyone at the moment. Just passing by what appears to be a lighthouse off in the distance. We are very far from Port Jefferson at this point, and yet the Port Jeff smokestacks and Stony Brook Hospital are still within pretty decent view as we are rapidly approaching Bridgeport and upcoming rail fanning opportunities. Now entered Bridgeport Harbor. You can see the tail end of a Metro North M8 off in the distance. I think there was also a slight corner where I caught the edge of a southbound Amtrak regional a few minutes ago. You can kind of see Metro North's pulling in the Bridgeport station over there. This is a very good ferry to commuter rail transfer point. Not just commuter rail, also intercity, since Amtrak goes here too. They just called a bunch of people down to the cars. Just made a massive turn in order to get into this port. But there's also the occasional car alarm that goes off here and there. But anyways, we have a lot of other Park City, that was the name of the other ship. I knew it would come back to me in a second. So once again, good timing. We have a lot of other beached up ships over here. One ferry, one tugboat, and a bunch of our miscellaneous items, as well as some new housing that's going up over there. That's new since last time I've been here a few months ago. But I guess the Long Island is helping them out with rotating stock. And if you look in the distance past that power plant, I believe that'll be our set for today for the Waterbury branch, a BL-20 and 3 shoreliners. Also right next to the set is a arena, which is used for concerts, hockey games, and other stuff like that. And what I assume is our Waterbury branch set is sitting perfectly right in front of it. We'll probably get a better view in like a few seconds once we're closer to the station. Good news, we got the Jeep today on our set instead of the BL-20. A little bit of a better angle shot over there once the tree clears it. Come on. Is that 3 or 2 cars? That's 3 cars. Come on. There we go. Kinda. Look at that EMD horsepower in all its beauty. Also of note on the other side is we're starting this 360 to be oriented for the cars properly. You also have a pretty nice view of the bridge going across for the northeast corridor along that way, and also I-95 as the Bridgeport station comes into view, which is where we'll be in about a few seconds. Welcome to Bridgeport. Right as someone's away. Right as the Metro North M8 is pulling in to Bridgeport. A nice view of that over there. Nice horn too. What a welcome sign to go into Bridgeport, then to be greeted by a train on this train-based channel. Unfortunately, the sidewalk appears to be closed. So does our entrance to track 4, but we do have a very nice bridge over here that says welcome to Bridgeport, that you can kind of see the M8 through that just came in. You can kind of get a good view of it. Not really. Maybe. So much. There we go. That was cool. We were able to kind of salvage the catch just now, though I don't think it says welcome to Bridgeport on this side, but at least it shows this way to the ferry, this way to track 3. It's a well-built station overall. So we are now in the Bridgeport building. Waterbury is listed as one of our destinations. So we go through the underpass and over to the other side. It's interesting how they have public art on one side but not the other. Ah well. That should lead us to a stairway and elevator with a little bit more art. This time saying Waterbury Street Concourse to New York. So we are here at Bridgeport. Interestingly, there appears to be an overpass on the other side of the platform, but it doesn't go to the lower level, on street level, on Water Street, I guess. Also, somewhat rare for this station, we don't have any bridge plates. All 4 tracks are apparently open. You can also get a very nice view over here of the ferry over to the left, in addition to the Northeast Corridor / New Haven mainline. And not only do we have a good view of our Waterbury shuttle, but we also appear to have a RAIR coming down. There's a high railer that's probably coming down track 2, I guess, or whatever they call the express track next to track 4. So great way to start off this journey with a rare catch for a little mini rail fanning segment at Bridgeport before we wait for our shuttle. Speaking of which, our shuttle might be coming in I think a few minutes after a delayed Northeast Regional to Boston, so I'm not sure if that'll delay our Waterbury shuttle or not, but we'll just have to wait and see. Got a nice little deck next to the station in the ferry. You can still see the high railer just going by. High railers are rare. I don't care what you tell me. They're not regularly scheduled trains, so they're worth something. Another nice view while we're waiting. We have this bridge over here, Ferry Station. I don't know where this land bridge leads to, or at least this elevated bridge. I think it just stops on the other end. It might have been fenced off at the time of me visiting. So just wanted to get this nice little view in before we go back up. Also, shout out really quick to this nice little park, or this little dock that goes onto the pier. I especially like the bridges that go in between each of the bridge abutments over here, connect them to each part of the sidewalk, so that's pretty cool. And just like that, the next Port Jeff ferry is leaving. Talk about good timing as to when I decided to film this a little bit. I guess that also makes up for the fact that I didn't get the horn earlier back in Port Jeff, so there you go. I guess just one horn this time instead of one long and 3 short. So they just announced that the 1038, despite the ETA of 1041, is supposed to show up at 1043. Meanwhile, the 1009 regional to Boston is supposed to be here at 1045. So it really could be anyone's game as to who's going to pull up to Bridgeport first in a situation like this, especially seeing that the regional is running a few minutes late, or at least 30 plus minutes late. So it appears they're letting the New Haven local get to Bridgeport first, and then letting the Waterbury shuttle go.
Next to arrive on track 4 is the 10:38 a.m. train to New Haven, leaving south at Stratford, Milford, West Haven, and New Haven.
I'm usually quiet during these rail fanning bits, but the PA system is talking over this whole thing, so... So they let the local to New Haven go first, so this way people who have the transfer to the Waterbury branch can actually have a transfer, which makes the most sense, I guess. Can't really get a... we have left Bridgeport en route to Waterbury. Got a nice view from the cab car over here. Got a very, very cool curve shot, or trainception as some people call it, going out of Bridgeport. So apparently they let the local to New Haven and then the Waterbury local go first before the Amtrak regional, which is yet to arrive. I don't see it at this point, but I just hope no one on that Amtrak regional was looking to make this transfer. But anyways, this is an even tighter curve. Wow. But this is the only rail fanning that we'll be doing up until Waterbury, because we're just taking this train to go to the starting point of Waterbury for today's adventure. So we're not starting the timer until probably this exact same train set goes down at roughly 12:40 later today in order to start our journey on to Montauk. So with that said, this is the last footage you'll be seeing until we get to Waterbury. Finally made it. It's about 11:52. I think we're pretty much on time, but finally made it to the terminus of this branch, and also the primary destination of the Fixing Your Branch Line episode of Metro North. Just gonna wait for the crowd to disperse a little bit. Look at that engine. Here is Waterbury Union Station, at least what's left of it. There used to be two more tracks right around here, but they were covered over by a park. There are also a lot of yard tracks over to the side, haven't been used in years. The Montauk Heritage Road usually goes a little bit further down that way. At least goes over here for excursion service every once in a while. Relatively short platform, but just long enough to fit all three cars. Got a blinking green already, and this train isn't scheduled to leave here for another 50 minutes or so. And one of the new things that changed the most about this whole branch since I initially made Fixing Your Branch Line is the addition of this little wraparound and dedicated parking lot over here. In the past it was just this big patch of dirt, but now they have a little drop-off curb, they have a lot of side parking, and that helps make it a little bit more organized in a way, so it's a nice touch. Lock your car, take your keys, hide your belongings. That is quite the reminder to tell someone if they're in a town. You can kind of see the abandoned yard over here, but let's just take a second to look at how awesome this angle is and why so many rail fans get this particular angle with the train right next to the tower. A little bit of a more close-up view of, I guess, what platform 1 of the station used to look like. Got a good view of the engine over there. And the two tracks that used to be here are right in the middle, kind of split off where that aisle platform is, but it's also separated by where the walkway in the middle is, so that kind of keeps it a little bit in order there. If they were to restore the two tracks, it would just go right in between the sidewalk and the current platform. It's a nice way to keep it a little bit organized that way. Here's a little bit of a better view of the iconic Waterbury Tower. Also the Union Station, which has since been turned into a newspaper company, I think last time I researched it, unless if it's something else now. But other than that, probably just gonna walk around, look for something to eat, and then get back on our train. We will finally start our Waterbury to Montauk combo trip ticket for only $24. Yeah, sadly we can't enter the Union Station for tourist purposes since it's private property. We also have a CT Transit Express bus called Hartford Express. I think there used to be rail service that went from this station to Hartford, but since been replaced by that bus over there. I mean, the rail connection is probably still intact, or at least it could be easily restored, so... Timer starts now. So we are back on the train, starting a long journey down to Montauk as we leave Waterbury Union Station.
Also on phone, now that we've activated it, is the combo ticket for Waterbury to any LIRR station. Hopefully it lasts long enough for us to go out to Montauk, but we shall see soon-ish.
Oh look! Look at that beautiful station just in the center of Montauk. It's so cool how they made it a multi-purpose building too. Oh wait, I thought I was talking about that restaurant? Why no, silly. That's the Montauk station. The original line was, but hey, at least they made it a bus shelter too. But to be honest, I don't even know if any bus services go here. I mean, I had to get at least one Fixing Your Branch Line reference in with this episode. Because you have that small station over here. When compared to the original Naugatuck station over here, which, like many other stations in the country, was preserved but turned into a restaurant right by the tracks, which makes for some good views while having lunch or dinner. So at least it's still intact somewhat, but it'll be nice to get some passenger service in that building too. Here we have another incredibly small and kind of adorable station over here, specifically Beacon Falls, which is right in the first car apparently, but can barely fit half a car based on the platform. Hopefully they extend this platform to be a little bit longer so it can hold more cars, but I guess we'll just wait and see. Other than that, the rest of the branch seems to be very woodsy, very hilly in some areas, but other parts are a little bit more suburban and other parts are more of a small town feel to it, so it's a bit of a mixed bag with the scenery on this line, which makes it unique in a way. Again, that's how short this platform is for Beacon Falls. The next few are a little bit better, somewhat. Insert Simpsons joke here.
Well, Seymour, I made it, despite directions.
You can kind of see through here the mountains and some of the quarries that we're passing by as well. I want to say the Naugatuck River over here is definitely one of the main highlights when it comes to sightseeing attractions along this branch, along with a handful of quarries and other small town feels in general. Damn, that was a big dam. Now here's I want to say one of the more interesting parts of the branch where they pass a flood wall and enter what appears to be an abandoned factory of sorts. I'm not sure what this plant used to be. I didn't really highlight it when I did my research for the Waterbury branch, but at least you'll see in a few seconds it's just this massive abandoned warehouse which can probably provide the aesthetics, or at least it showcases aesthetics that are very, I don't know how to describe it, but there's definitely a vibe to it once you see it in about a few seconds. Like right here. And it's like this on both sides of the train. It's something about abandoned warehouses that just says a lot in an artistic way. Right as we approach Ansonia, which will be on the opposite side of the train, but honestly, this is much more interesting than the Ansonia station, so just enjoy all this, I guess. I guess it's still active if they still have an active crossing there, so that's interesting. In a strange turn of events, the southbound train appear to be held at Derby Shelton. I say strange turn of events because for the northbound trip up here, the northbound trip was held at Derby Shelton waiting for the southbound to pass by, so I assume he would have had priority going down, but I guess not. So, just gonna watch the northbound pass by. This wait isn't taking as long as earlier today, but the thing that's kind of interesting about this branch is that the whole line used to be double tracked, and we wouldn't have this issue if the whole line had a second track for the entirety of the branch. So this way you could run two sets easily, possibly even a third set, and not have any holdups like this. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but
would just be a little bit easier if they just seamlessly flow through. But anyways, we're sitting just outside of the Derby station. That's another thing too, that they have this passing siding specifically placed between the two closest stations on the bridge, Derby Shelton and Ansonia. But I don't know, I just find it a little bit odd that way. I've also heard of plans to electrify this branch, but I would say add the second track first, then put up the wires, so this way catenary poles are in place where the second track used to be. And that's taken straight from fixing your branch line while we wait for this northbound set to pass by. It's pretty good concerts too. BL20 and 3 red shoreliners, a triple red. Haven't seen stuff like that since the days of early Shoreline East in the 90s, I want to say. Well, I guess it was a different set with a BL20. That horn is not as cool as the Jeep that we had earlier, but it's still something, I guess. How could I forget about that Valley Transit District bus terminal for all you bus owners out there? Right as we pull into Derby Shelton. This time they actually used the original head house station, so that's cool. Almost forgot to mention, there's this golf cart that just goes on forever. I don't know why I combined course and cart like that. I think it's because I saw a golf cart at the same time as I was about to say golf course, but yeah. A lot of land to do golf. Then we have, is that a railroad crossing through that golf? Whoa, hold on 1 second. Oh no, it's just us. You would think it ends there, but nope. It just keeps on going. It's the golf course that keeps on giving. And then it's not really... Oh no, there it is again. This has to be like a mile long, at least. I mean, you have the nice view of the Montauk River on the other side, but man, that is a lot of space. It's one of the largest ones I've ever seen.
Alright folks, just a reminder, this
obligatory railfanning maintenance of way equipment. MOW stuff is rare, guys, come on now. These hoppers go on for a while. I don't know how I didn't notice that. There we go. We're now on the line that goes to the main line from the Waterbury branch. Trainception here is absolutely insane. Or curve view, as some people would call it. Wow, there's even some form of catenary up there. And after this, we should be crossing over. Actually, no, we wouldn't be crossing over because we're already on the eastbound track. Sorry, westbound. Because the Waterbury branch is single track, we had to go across all 4 tracks on the northbound run. But here's one last view of the Montauk River before we head towards New York City. I have no clue as to what this is supposed to be. They just leveled this whole field and they have a lot of pavement over it.
Alright, Stratford coming up, Stratford, exit through the middle of the train please. Stratford coming up.
What he said, basically. So apparently on this side of the Stratford station is a train-themed restaurant, whereas the other side of the station is the actual station house for Stratford. I find that kind of unusual, this particular station, since most stations are usually the head house is on one end, not both. So it's a good repurpose of one of the two, I guess. Now we're passing by what I think is called Barnum. A lot of empty land here, but I forgot the name of the proposed station, but there is a Metro North station proposal to add like an infill station somewhere right around here to better serve this community. Not really sure how far it's getting as of now, but I remember covering it for the Metro North Iceberg, so I might as well point that out. I don't know the exact location, but I think it's somewhere around here-ish for this proposed station.
Schedule, all right?
Apparently there's a bus terminal
Bridgeport,
on there. I never noticed that after all these years of visiting Bridgeport. But anyways, we're back where we kind of started, at least when it comes to rail transit. I think this pedestrian bridge over here is supposed to lead to that bus terminal. I'm not sure about the one on the other side, but I would hope it goes there too. And we're back. This time right in front of the overpass. Bridgeport. Apologies if I couldn't really get that curve shot of our train coming in just now, but really cool catenary design over there going underneath the telephone poles, but there's a bit of crowd on the platform. And once again, the PT Barnett is still there. Kind of fitting since that's the same boat we were on earlier today. Park City now seems to be in use, probably swapped out with the other one that was stored either here or at Port Jeff, I guess. So we appear to be moving pretty fast along the NEC, or fast-ish, albeit up to a 80-mile-per-hour top speed, but at least we're moving faster than the cars on 995, which is a good sign. So apparently, despite the long distance from New Haven, this train is only 6 cars long. But thankfully we'll be running express after Stamford. Also, unlike the Danbury branch, I will not be reviewing every single station along this branch because that would take way too long. But I'll try to go over some of the main highlights as well, or just other random stuff they point out along the branch. Alright, fine, I'll cover the ones that we stop at mostly. Starting off with Fairfield Blackrock, which has a CT Rail logo on the station signal, or station sign, instead of just Metro North. I think that's because this was renovated within recent times, where it's under CT Rail jurisdiction, or something like that. The overpass looks nice though. One of many M8s that will be passing by right as we pull into Fairfield after Fairfield Blackrock. I wonder if the Blackrock company got it started Fairfield, or Fairfield Blackrock in that case. Now, if I remember correctly, I think all the, I was going to say all the head houses for the New Haven branch are on the north side, but this one's on the south side, so maybe it varies per station. That's something. Southport Freight Station. Cool. Right at the end of the video, Southport passes by, so that's my bad. Also trying to keep my eyes out for once a daily Amtrak from Montauk that's supposed to pass by us soonish, according to transit docs. There it went. I don't know if I got the engine on camera, but it was a regular ACS 64. Couldn't catch the engine number though. There was that triple red Danbury branch, no, Waterbury branch set that I talked about earlier that I saw the northbound run. I guess it went to Stamford for something like routine maintenance, and now it's going back up there. But it was a BL20 and 3 red Shoreliner coaches in one set. Also, there's a deer in the background. A lot of marshland here. You can also kind of see the Long Island Sound down the distance somewhat. Tail end of the Acela there. I find it interesting how the Westport station is one of a handful of Metro North to have a Avis and budget rental car station at the commuter rail station, right after crossing over the bridge, which you can kind of see the port store somewhat all the way up there. Right as we leave Westport, it is finally starting to rain for the first time today. I'd say my gambit with the code kind of paid off, since the remainder of this trip is going to be indoors anyways, so it's not like I'm going to be affected by the rain too much in the grand scheme of things. Apparently we are running on the eastbound track and we just passed by East Norwalk for some reason. Maybe scheduled track work? That's my guess. Something like that. We have 2 American flags to show how cool we are with this project. Right as we're crossing back onto the westbound track and going over this river right here. You can see a train section over there. Right as we're about to approach the other 2 bridges that go over this river. I'm not sure if there's people coming on the other side. There's the Norwalk Tower, I think. Somewhere there it is. Everybody say hi to the virtual rail fan cams. I don't mean to sound so unenthusiastic, it's just I'm in a packed train and I don't want to be talking too loud, but yeah. Norwalk next. It's where we meet with the Danbury branch. Nice little town feeling too, down that little main street. And also a residence inn. Definitely a cool town, Norwalk, Connecticut. I don't know if that's supposed to be a grade crossing or a 10 platform or not, but we have a M8 meet. Not the Danbury branch, but it's something to greet us at Norwalk. So, cool, I guess. There's the rest of the Norwalk station over there. Yippee! Good thing I caught this heritage unit right on time. Albeit a little bit blurry. I think this should be the set that they're using on the Danbury branch. It looks long enough for it. Unfortunately, my camera has a tendency to not always get the clearest of shots until later. But at least we got a heritage unit on camera. So, yippee! Right, this station seems to be under construction for something. Looks like they're making good progress. Mostly. That's still a lot of platform that's left open despite the construction work, so good job, guys. Come on, there we go. Hey, look, there's the Waterbury set that we were just on. Interesting. There's another Jeep down there, but I was going to say also there's that middle car for the M8, but there's the P32, GP35, some extra shoreliners. There's a lot of cool. I think that's an extra Danbury set based on the number of coaches they have there, but basically what he said, we're at Stamford, obligatory rail fanning, massive yards like Stamford, and also some maintenance stuff right there.
Stamford Station here. Rerun Express. 125th Street, Patriot Central Terminal. Transfer here at Stamford for a whole other local service.
Express runs like this one really help speed up the process for a whole bunch of different branches, because then you have trains that only run local to Stamford, trains that run local to like Greenwich, but it helps kind of move along trains that are already packed by the time they're at Stamford and going to Grand Central. Stopping right at the overpass. Just passed over the river as we leave Stamford, Connecticut, home of the new Canaan branch, which Bill Wirtz wrote a song about many years ago.
All remaining tickets out and ready for collection.
A nice curve on both ends here. A little bit better on this side because you get to see the city. I hear this is one of the largest growing towns in Connecticut too. I'm not sure if we just caught it, but that bridge we just passed over was the Mianus River Bridge, which has no overhead catenary for the bridge span, because it's just easier to just have a leap of faith as we go across instead of trying to figure out how the catenary would bend when the bridge deck goes up on a diagonal. But now we're at Cost Cobb, we just passed by that little engineering feat. I feel like it's easier to expect when going east versus west. I mean, it also doesn't help that I'm facing the wrong way, but that's besides the point. So anyways, now that we're here, you have a bit of a interesting choice. So technically this train is running express at Grand Central. It's supposed to be at Grand Central at 3:22, but having been on a handful of express New Haven line trains like this before, they usually run up to about like 10 minutes early at Grand Central if they have a large gap like this. So that would put us in Grand Central by 3:11. Now train time tells us that, first of all, we're moving much faster than the cars on I-95, so that's epic. But train time tells us that in order to go to Montauk, we have to go to Jamaica by 4:48, where we take a train that puts us in Montauk by like 7:41. But today is Friday, May 23rd. It is the first run of the Cannonball for the summer 2025 season. Now the Cannonball is an express run that goes from Penn Station all the way to West Hampton, but it does not stop at Jamaica. Now even though this train leaves Penn at 4:07, and I could very easily take a subway from Grand Central to Penn, that would be going out of system, and that would nullify this whole run. Because in order for it to legitimately be the longest trip on a combo ticket, it has to be within the same trip. Even though the combo ticket would still be good, there can't be a subway transfer, because then that would question the legitimacy of this particular run. So what I plan to do in order to attempt to catch a Cannonball is get to Grand Central, run to the next LIRR train going to Jamaica, which is at 3:22, the same time this train is scheduled to arrive, and then from there take another train from Jamaica into Penn. So this way the whole trip is entirely on the Long Island Railroad, and it doesn't require an out-of-system transfer. Now, I don't have so much of a problem with catching the train at Grand Central. It's more so of a matter of when the train arrives at Jamaica and goes to Penn, because that's supposed to pull into Penn at 4:09, and the Cannonball leaves at 4:07. But there is a chance that the Cannonball could be delayed, or the train to Penn could be early. To be honest, I don't really have very high prospects of actually catching the Cannonball, and I'm probably still going to go for 4:48 anyways. But it'll be a heck of a journey to try. It'll be a heck of an attempt to do, and it'll be amazing if we could pull it off. No guarantees though, but it's still worth a try, seeing that we have a lot of extra time before our next scheduled train to Montauk. So I guess we'll just wait and see once we get to Grand Central. New Rochelle is a bit of a small city vibe as well. A lot of tall buildings here at a relatively small amount of space. Now that we're passing by New Rochelle, right about here. This is the one station on railfanning that we're not stopping at because it's that big of a hub, especially with the Amtrak transfer. Speaking of Amtrak, this is where they split off from Metro North as they go directly to Penn Station. That line is currently single-tracked in some parts in order to make way for Penn Station access, which will bring select New Haven branch or New Haven line trains from Metro North to Penn Station via the Hell's Gate Bridge along the Amtrak right-of-way. Now, interestingly, after mapping out the distance between New Rochelle and Woodside, which is where a trip like this would change, whether it be via Grand Central or via Penn Station, technically the distance between Sunnyside Yard and Woodside, if you were to only count that from Penn Station access and not count Penn Station, then it would be a shorter trip. But because with Penn Station access, you have to go to Penn Station and transfer to Long Island Railroad in order to go out to Montauk, because of that double back to Penn, that makes the Waterbury to Montauk trip via Penn Station access about 3.5 miles longer than the trip we're doing now, Waterbury to Montauk via Grand Central. So once they open Penn Station access, I might do something like this again, just to get the extra mileage. Maybe. I mean, who knows in the future. There appears to be I'm not really sure if you can see it behind us, but there was a M8 kind of close-ish to us, but we're also on that part of the line where it's part overhead, part third rail, as we do the power change soon enough, as the sky is finally starting to clear up after a mostly overcast day. Gives us a little bit of hope for later, maybe. Yes. Now that the overhead wires are gone and we are fully in third rail territory as we pass through Mount Vernon East. Those are Pensy keystones on that building. I don't care what you say. This is Pensy influence on New York Central Territory. Says Pensy fan, but still. I like to believe that those are Pennsylvania Railroad keystones to say we're still watching New York Central because we're the better railroad. And I probably just missed the Heritage unit on the other side. But anyways, Harlem River, Hell's Gate Bridge. Can we see the lead engine from here? Let me see. Can't really tap now out of view. Oh well. Anyways, now we are going down the straightaway into Harlem. Those are still Pensy keystones. That's for the Pennsylvania Railroad. Anyways, now leaving Harlem on the 25th. Heading down the straightaway, the home stretch for a Metro North segment of this trip. Famous rail foot spot coming up now. At least for people on the bridge. No, it ain't. See exit at 59th Street. This used to be a former commuter rail station before being downgraded to an exit, but once you see that, this is where all the hundreds of tracks begin for Grand Central, both of their levels, by the way. It's where it all starts at 59th. Kind of see the New York Central Heritage unit pulling out now. That's 2 Heritage units in one trip. Pretty good sign for us, hopefully. Just like that, we are at Grand Central. I'll be walking the other way in order to get to Grand Central North. But we made incredibly good timing on that express run. I don't know why they don't just adjust the schedule to like the express time to begin with. Be at least a little bit more accurate that way. Walk up a little bit to the Grand Central North underpass. Comes in handy in cases like this if I need to get to the LIRR section quickly. So we got a rather unusual Grand Central North entrance in which instead of going from the front you kind of have to wrap around the back in order to access it, unlike the other ones. I guess because we run out of platform over here, but I don't really know if you can see it from here. I don't think. Okay, there we go. You can kind of see the yellow end of 217, which is a Penn Central Heritage unit. I feel like that particular one I see all the time whenever I railfan at Grand Central, or at least when I'm commuting there. So that's 3 Heritage units in one trip. That's a pretty good ratio, I want to say. But got the unusual underpass today, which brings us into this particular part of Grand Central North instead of the rest of the underpass, which we'll see in a few seconds. And here is the rest of Grand Central North. Puts us all the way on this side. And then the blue lights are the LIRR entrance. Follow the blue lights down to here. Escalator's going the right way. And then just like that, it puts you by Grand Central Madison, 47th Street. And the battery's about to go down, so. Just a little lower level. As we go up to the upper track 202. Next leg as we officially go to the Long Island Road section of this trip. And just like that, we started our Long Island segment. So we begin the Long Island segment of this longest trip via combo tickets. We are about 2 hours 43 minutes in, according to the stopwatch. So we're leaving the newest station on the LIRR, at least the lower level of Grand Central. Camera quality isn't the best, but once again, in order to attempt to catch the Cannonball, in order for it to count, I'd rather it be via LIRR connection and not the subway, even though it's a very easy 2-stop transfer to the Times Square shuttle and then the 1, 2, or 3. Could have easily done it, easily called the Cannonball, but we want to make this official, so we have to go via LIRR. In this case, via deviation to Penn Station, with very low prospects of catching the Cannonball, but still doable. This train's absolutely packed, by the way, and it's not even the beginning of rush hour yet. On a Friday, no less, but I guess a lot of people just want to go out for the summer and take the train, so good for them. I'll try to get more video footage once we're back around Jamaica soonish. We are now back out of the tunnel. Made it on the dry land. Just left Sunnyside Yard. Tail end of Harold Interlocking, where Amtrak, LIRR, and soon to be Metro North all meet and interchange. I'm just not having it. This camera is not liking this window quality all that well, but right around here is where, holy smokes, right around here is where the Northeast Corridor and soon to be Penn Station access will be splitting off from the LIRR. You can kind of see it through the window. Weather is like half sunny, half overcast, so it's a very iffy 50-50 vibe when it comes to the weather. And that kind of explains what we'll be doing next, because the next train we'll be catching at Jamaica, that is a every second counts kind of situation, since if that train is late by a minute or two, I might just skip the whole thing and just catch it passing by at Jamaica instead of going to Penn and missing the whole thing. It's going to be late by a few minutes, so a lot of uncertainty in the next few minutes or so, we'll just see as we pass by Woodside, next stop Jamaica. So we have some trainception, starting with an M7, M3 a little bit further up, and an M9 over there. All 3 types of EMUs right outside of Jamaica. In regards to our train, I'm thinking we should still go for it, even though it'll be late. Well, not late, but train time estimates it for a 3:49 arrival. Also, there's a C3 on track 8, so that's all 4 classes here. Cool. Also, there's Spanwick, under a lot of construction lately, but the train to Penn is at 3:49. It is supposed to get in at 4:08. The Cannonball leaves at 4:07. The only thing that could save us is if the Cannonball is somehow held up by people trying to catch it, such as ourselves, at the last second. It's a very, very small chance of it working, but it's still something that we should include, at the very least, for the sake of making content. Will NC fan make it on the Cannonball, the first Cannonball run of the season? Or will this side door view be the best view we can get of the Cannonball? find out in about a few seconds. We are on Jamaica, just on the platform. It's very crowded in here, so I'll get the camera later. I know that bell anywhere. I hear an MP15. Where is it? It's the only kind of diesel that had. There it is, New York and Atlantic Railway. Talk about good timing. That's a nice DM9. Short constants, really. Don't want to leave this platform because our train's soon. 5 minutes. Like that. Yep, train to Penn. 3:45, we have a chance. Come on, New York and Atlantic. Give us the luck we need to catch the Cannonball. Really help. Double M9 beat. Nice. And the MP15 Protect. So we are leaving Jamaica at 3:50. This is cutting it incredibly close, but it's still worth a try. And even if we don't end up catching a Cannonball, we still get to pass by Sunnyside Yard, which is pretty cool all in itself, especially seeing that the tunnels of Grand Central go underground before you get before you get to the good part of Sunnyside, which is, you know, where all the trains are. So at least we'll be seeing that today. We are now leaving Forest Hills, which is under partial renovation for some reason. Good thing for that extra platform to give it more room. Hey, there's a railfanning on the platform, that's cool. But it is 3:57. We were supposed to leave at 55. Our ETA on train time is 4:09. It's not looking good for the Cannonball, but it's still something better to do than just wait around in Jamaica. Even if it means we lose a good view of the Cannonball if we don't catch it, we still get a good view of everything else. New York Atlantic was a nice touch too. Came in at the same time as a bunch of other M9s and M7s. So even if we don't get the Cannonball, we still had a good time. So let's see what we can do. Hopefully we can get a better view of the northeast corridor now. Now that this window isn't as spotted as the M9s that we were on earlier. So once again, northeast corridor. Also, I think that's a Delta Airlines that's leaving from LaGuardia, way off in the background. But anyways, this is where Penn Station access is supposed to meet with the LIRR along with Amtrak. So as the tunnels of Grand Central Madison fall off, we say hello to Sunnyside Yard in about a few seconds. Thankfully with a much better skyline. Cleared up a whole lot since about a few minutes ago. Starting off with some HHBA cab cars off in the distance. Already we're off to a good start here. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, that might be a coach. Yeah, pretty good stuff. We're in that beginning portion of rush hour where the yard is starting to empty out, but it's not empty yet. We have this interesting concept over here. I think that's a P42 in the background. We have a Phase 7 coach being shunted by 572 over there. Most of this section is empty, but a lot of NJT stuff is still in the yard. And there's the Avelia Liberty. Look at that, we get an Avelia Liberty in this whole run. Albeit running, it's still in the yard, glistening in the sun. with everything else. And also the 7 train. How cool is that? There also appears to be an M7 by itself. At least a 2-car pair sitting side to side. And then there's also some miscellaneous Amtrak stuff. Snow blowers, I guess. And we might be able to see Art Street Yard. An NJT train passed us on the other side, probably coming from Sunnyside. Yep, and we're going to one of the further tracks today. There's Art Street, there's the 7 train line. Curtis Point Avenue is on the other side of the train, not visible from here. And then we finally go down into the East River Tunnel. This is where it comes down to the wire. It's 4:04 time. Hopefully that's a good sign. Maybe. Don't really know. That gives us about 2.5 minutes to catch the Cannonball. An on-time Cannonball too, that may or may not be held up. I'm thinking like 25% chance at most, but it's slightly better than earlier because now we're closer to Penn. We're moving pretty fast, so I'm still keeping the pace, still keeping the hope. We can do this, maybe. 3, 2, 1. It is now 4:07. We are pulling into Penn now. This is a real coin toss as to whether we're going to make it or not. I don't think we're going to be on. Are we going to get a track number?
This station is Penn Station.
Probably not. But I don't know what track we're going to come in on. Not sure how close it is to 19, I think. I say 19 because the last time I saw the Cannonball was on track 19, or at least the advanced Cannonball, when I caught it back in Penn about a year ago. But my guess is 19. Not sure if it's going to be there today. I have no clues what track I'm coming in on. Really hoping that Cannonball gets held up for an extra minute or two to let us on, since it's now 4:08. So we're going to be about 1 minute OT. Not really sure. We're still at medium speed in the tunnels, so we'll just see on the platform. It is 4:09. We are on track 15. Might as well run, make Dashing damn proud. Even if we don't catch, we can still catch tail ends. So sorry in advance. Yep, I think it's still there. I see a double check. That was not just the horn, was it? Excuse me.
The time is now 4:10.
Excuse me, sorry. Sorry. 19 Cannonball. Is the door still open? Cannonball. No? All right. It's going the wrong way. That's odd. It's a double-decker set on 519. Is this a Cannonball? No, it's not. Interesting. So I guess they're saying it was on 19, but left. Well, at least we got a double-decker, so that's cool, I guess.
Last call for the 413, backlog train now boarding track 21.
And might as well get that one back from Jamaica. Once again, we are back out of the tunnels, out of Penn. Once again, it's half sunny, half overcast, which is kind of odd, but taking the train back to Jamaica. There's so many people on here that it's kind of like the unofficial Cannonball in a way, as as an ALP 45 passes by. There's a lot of people here coming from work and business casual, summer dresses, all that stuff. And it's going along the same branch as Cannonball, albeit just making more local stops and going up to Babylon. So we kind of caught a mini Cannonball in a way, especially since this is technically the next train that departed after the Cannonball. But it's alright. Still a fun time going down here. Railfanning and Sunnyside, and we're still on track to make our initially scheduled train of the 4:48 to Montauk from Jamaica. So we're still on track, despite this slight setback by a few minutes, but the view at Sunnyside is more or less the same from when we passed by about like 10 minutes ago. So just one more extra view of that. Nice little pace against the 9 here. Train next to us is going to Montauk, so we have a lot of locals on this branch today. We have a local to Montauk, followed by this one, which is local to Babylon, and then our train, which is local to Montauk. So, even if we didn't get the Cannonball, we got the local equipment immediately behind it, which is still cool in a way. Man, this is a lot of people. It's definitely rush hour. That said, I'll put this back on once we get to a little more open area. There goes the Montauk local. You can hear the Babylon local going now. I'm not really sure if you can get a good angle of both, but let's see if the now the platform isn't really clear. Hold on. So we're just gonna wait here until the 4:48 on the much less crowded west end of the pass. It's still kind of crowded though because it's rush hour, but we just get good views of the air train, somewhat. Another nice meet over here. Air train, M3, M7, DE30AC, and not visible earlier was an M9 since that pulled out in the Montauk local, but it is rush hour at Jamaica. There's nothing but trains here. Railfan's delight, especially with the M3s over there. That's a endangered species nowadays. More M9s coming in to replace him soon. Canopies kind of block him, but there we go. Let's see what's going on in Morris Park. Is there anything going on in Morris Park? I see some Sandike cars, I see some MP15s, M3s, tower. So, just same old, same old. Still cool views. M7 versus M9. Who will win? Vote now on their phones. Angles like this to make rail fanning a little more worth it. Look at that. Neck and neck. Nine's probably going to diverge. Yep. This is what makes the Long Island Railroad the busiest commuter road in the world. Well, not even close to the world, but at least in the US. And that also makes it pretty fun to railfan. Even if it is nothing but M9s and M7s, it's still pretty cool to get angles like this, especially as they're spining around the corners over there. Hopefully you can hear this audio over the PA system. There's the 7, and the 9 is pulling in right next to it on track 8. Stopping at Montauk, I'm gonna give this to the M9 because it looks like the tail end of it came in first. Maybe. I mean, it could also depend on who leaves as well. But I mean, I will go down to the platform to check, but the entrance is blocked off at the moment, so look at that view. M9 racing a DM30. Apparently they terminated a Jamaica-bound M9 at track 8, causing some confusion because the Ronco-bound train is right there. We all miss the mechanical bells on these DM30s. Anyways, let's just enjoy the shot. So we are finally leaving Jamaica about 5 minutes late. Where was this 5-minute delay for the actual Cannonball? I mean, not to wish any trains late, but had the original Cannonball been delayed, then we could have caught it at Penn, and then we wouldn't have to stop at all these local stops up until West Hampton. But I don't mind. I mean, the train before this one was the train to Babylon too, to continue in the whole Babylon Montauk branch kind of tribute for this whole run, or at least this whole segment of the run. So, I mean, it's a good. I think this train originated from Hunters Point, if I remember correctly, but they're still using a dual mode set with 6 or 8 cars, but it's still plenty of capacity. It's a good thing they have more cars and fewer, since this train is absolutely filled to the brink, just like the actual Cannonball. Maybe not as bad, but still, it's up there. But anyways, we finally enter on to our last leg of this lengthy trip from Waterbury to Bridgeport, Bridgeport to Grand Central to Jamaica with diversion to Penn, and now lastly Jamaica to Montauk. So as that train, the long branch, goes that way, it appears we're going via the main line instead of Babylon, meaning we will be taking the central branch today, which is a small connecting line that goes from Bethpage directly to Babylon. Now, it's because of the third track project to I remember hearing that it was one of the goals of the third track project around the main line to accommodate more trains like this, trains that were expressed from Jamaica to Babylon without going through the double-tracked main between Babylon and Jamaica that train is going through right now. So hopefully that third track can come in handy for trains like this, so this way we all get moving along in an orderly fashion. And because we're going via the main line today over to the central branch, that means we get to go by Hillside Maintenance Facility. That blue front M3 you saw just now was probably one of the laser or sandite trains, as they used to be known as. Not sure if they're refurbishing it or setting it for scrap, but they usually use them to melt leaves from the rails to prevent with signal interference and stuff like that. It appears that I guess most of the M3s that were stored here have, I guess, been brought back into service. I mean, there are still a few here, but not as many as what there used to be like a few months ago. But a lot of great opportunities to rail fan all the different EMUs as you go by Hillside, one of the largest maintenance facilities for a commuter rail system in the country. A little maintenance yard past Queens Village right around here. And then pretty soon we'll have the recently opened Elmont UBS Arena and the recently closed Belmont Station. Belmont is further down the Y. Elmont was open, so this way they would have a mainline stop to Belmont without having to diverge from the main line and reverse and do this whole complicated maneuver. So there's UBS over there. There's also a bus depot nearby, right over here. And there's the Y that goes to Belmont. There it is. And here's the new Elmont station. And overpass. They also have plenty of parking shuttles that come in handy that bring you from this end of the station all the way to Elmont, since it is quite the hike from the main line to the event, but better to stop operationally in the main line than to do this whole Y maneuver. And here is Mineola, one of the most famous rail fanning spots in the entire LIRR in like the recent 20 or so 30 years actually, maybe even 40. You can't really see it on this side, but with the Oyster Bay branch split off, this section between New Hyde Park and Hicksville not only added a dirt track, but also included a lot of station renovations, Great Ross replacements, and you saw part of one of them earlier, but the grades that go underneath the tracks, they're a bit of a steep dip down because you're kind of constrained with space, but I guess they figured out a way to make it work. And you also have these sound barriers right next to the tracks to try to minimize the noise of the trains passing by. There's another big part of this particular project. Also forgot to mention earlier that the Hempstead branch split off at Floral Park, which is the second largest rail fanning spot of the LIRR. So we are passing by Hicksville with its 3-track main, and soon to be split off between the Port Jefferson and Ronkonkoma branches, which will later lead into the Greenport branch further down Ronco and the Montauk branch via the Central branch. Interesting, no passengers M7. Now where are they coming from? Are they coming from the main line, or are they? Yeah, they're from the main line. Making a clear for Divide Tower just in time as Port Jeff branch splits off. This is definitely the more dramatic of the two splits between this and the Central branch when we get to that page, so I want to get video footage of this, even if it means risking my seat at the moment. I'm not sure if you can see it too well, but there goes the main line splitting off. Splitting now on the Central branch. Single track, no stops, just a straight connection between Bethpage and Babylon. Found a little lake and a signal over here. Sorry if I didn't get much footage of the Central branch. It's not much stuff to really rail fan. It's just a bunch of backyards and some industrial stuff. There is one recycling facility that sees daily service from New York Atlantic Railway, but that's on the other side of the train. So, but this is also one of the handful of trains that actually skips Babylon in a rather unusual manner. Now we're approaching the village of Babylon. The station should be passing by us now. Unfortunately, the yard is also on the other side, but we'll see what we can do about rail fanning that. Also, sneak peek at new station renovations at Babylon. They're pretty nice, especially with the colored signage, the interesting 2 different levels of Babylon signage. really modern, especially with the steel canopy. It's one of the most, probably the most modern station I've seen in the Northeast. Incredible job of renovating this. And here's what the current station looks like when it was first built in the 60s, when the line was elevated back in 64, I want to say. I think the LIRR's been refurbishing a few stations along this branch, but Babylon is definitely the newest and definitely looks the best of all the recent renovations, in my opinion. Okay, so we couldn't get the Babylon yard, but here's Bayshore. It's our first stop along this route. I think the head house for most of these stations are, at least up until Patchogue, are on the north side of the train. We're on the south side because I needed literally any seat available. It also helps I didn't have any bags with me today, even though everyone else was bringing their suitcases out to the Hamptons, so seats over views, I guess. And besides, we got Hillside earlier, so we're good. So there was a smaller head house and a bunch of, I guess, smaller local Suffolk transit buses back at the last station, but now we are leaving Islip, where the first 4 cars platformed. I don't know why the platform isn't longer, but that's besides the point. I could have sworn there used to be a station shelter somewhere at Great River. There it is. I was wondering where that was. I see Great River got a, just passing our train side, but Great River got the new station sign upgrades where they're color coded with the branches, just like Metro North. So that's pretty cool. Former freight depot for Oakdale. I'm gonna try to keep most of these station descriptions kind of quick since I'm starting to run kind of low on battery. There it is. There's the Oakdale. Be sure to watch my railfanning footage from this station from like a little less than a year ago.
I need to see it.
Also Oakdale Station. Yippee. Okay, bye. Wow. That was low. Wow, wait, look at those flatbeds. 3 separate flatbeds in 1 yard. Usually see a bunch of one of those, but not one of each in the same place. They seem to be doing something at that school. Imagine still having school, I guess. But, where are we? Sayville, I think? Maybe? I don't know. I mean, I'm in the last car. We haven't been platforming for the past few stations, but that's alright. Most of these branch line trains are less than 8 cars anyways, so. And besides, it, I guess keeps most of the flow to the first few cars, but yeah, we seem to be blocking the crossing, but oh well. Or will we platform after all? Who knows? Will we be on the platform, or will we still be blocking the crossing? That is a no and yes for this station. Shout out to Sayville for having new signage too. And also a nice little shuttle bus next to this little station. And I guess a private bus or two. Here's the former Blue Point station, which is interesting in which the LIRR actually seems to have reclaimed the site for MOW storage purposes to store all those miscellaneous items at the former site of the Blue Point station. I think the original station was shut down due to close proximity to Patchogue, which is coming up in a few minutes. A little crossing over the water here. A lot of boats, some marshalling earlier in this little siding as we enter Patchogue, which is often the last stop of many Montauk branch trains. They usually run as shuttles or scoots from here to Babylon. This parking lot is, I guess the solar panels is new since the last time we visited here. And I don't think we're going to platform, but that's besides the point. Obligatory head house for each station, especially since I use the station the most whenever I do use the Montauk branch down here. Also have a few catches of some LIRR trains here over the years, especially of my favorites, the 3404. It's a Suffolk bus cameo. Only the first car for Belfort for the station. relatively small station along the branch. Not the smallest, but one of the shorter ones. Somewhat rare example of headlights on the top of the cantilever on Long Island, but for once, we're actually platforming. They're letting the last 4 cars platform from Essex Shirley. I guess because they don't want to hold up the traffic on that major road over there. I also want to say this is one of the newer stations on the system. Not only was it recently refurbished, but it was also opened somewhat recently to replace Mastic and I want to say Center Moriches. They also color coded this station as well, so that's pretty cool. Speaking of which, there was a former Mastic station. And here's the former Center Moriches stations, occasionally used for rail fanning. And East Moriches has that little shed right there. Not rail fanned as often. Also known for its t-shirt on Etsy. So we got the Speed station over here. The good news is a few seats opened up. Just in time for us to catch the Speonk yard for at least a little bit. Got a water tanker car back there. And an MP15 over there. Better view than the Meep. I mean, the rest of the yard is pretty empty, but just goes to show what this yard usually looks like. West Hampton, otherwise the first stop along the Cannonball that we finally made our way to now. Much later than the Cannonball, but we're all on the same branch, going to the same place, so it's all good. Right past this station, you can kind of see it for a second, but we're passing by an airport where all the private jets of the people who visit the Hamptons usually land at. So, nice little landmark there. Abandoned quad station, as seen in my rail fanning footage taken from that dead end over there. Code change point at Hampton Bays, whatever that means. Maybe it has something to do with signaling. At Hampton Bays, apparently their signage got updated on both the opposite side and on the station itself, which is a pretty cool feat for this particular station. And so the Shinnecock Canal, the official gateway into, I guess, the other east end of Long Island. It's a gateway for something, basically. But this splits up the South Shore into east and far east, I guess. I think there used to be a bunch of fishing specials that used to terminate right around here. You get here at a ridiculous hour in the morning and then just set up a bunch of fishing posts and then come back later in the day. The former Shinnecock Hills Station, ? I say that because there used to be a bunch of different Shinnecock Hills stations over the years. Just this one, or somewhere around here, that used to be a temporary golf station as recent as a few years ago in order to cater to a golf course on that side of the train, which you can kind of see. We stopped right next to the signal, but I don't think we platformed. Also, there's an ice cream bus passing by us. And another rental car place right outside of Southampton. This is a nice little station because there's a passing sign both to the side of the station and also a little further on. There isn't any train waiting for us at Bridgehampton, but I think one of my earliest rail fanning competitions on the channel was Speonk here and I think Montauk or somewhere around there. Former watermill station, now a party rental place. Watch my footage from there. Bridgehampton has a mega ramp and that new signage. So that's cool. Bridgehampton used to see a split off to the Sag Harbor branch right around there. I forgot to mention that earlier, even though the footage didn't really come out all that clear. East Hampton Station. A lot of trees and very close to street level, might I add. Very nice station too. I think it was recently refurbished. Anyways, East Hampton, as seen in the Penn Station 19 intro. And Megansett Station, nice little shack over there. The first two cars platformed, albeit a relatively large parking lot for such a small station. Unfortunately, it appears my combo ticket is about to expire in 1 minute, even though we're not really near Montauk Station yet. But that's mostly because even though our train left at 12:40, I think the conductor asked me to activate it a few minutes before because I was on the train at that point. But had I activated a little bit after 12:40, the ticket would still be good until Montauk. But the conductor already checked it here, so it already served its purpose, so it's good. But anyways, we are approaching the home stretch of this massive journey. We are going through a lot of woodlands right now. But after all this woods, we will finally reach Montauk. The last stop of the longest distance to travel was a combo ticket for just 24 bucks. Beautiful view of the water over here, along with a very gorgeous sunset. Got some clouds. Well, I'm probably gonna walk up soon, but let's just get one last amazing view of this before we start walking up. I feel like more people should railfan this one, so you can park in on the bench too, if it's accessible. Probably by the road over there, or maybe some back roads, but this is what South Fork scenery is all about when you go by rail. We finally made it, Montauk Bay. There's the Long Island Sound, the beautiful sunset in the distance. Here's the Y that's occasionally used to turn around at least a handful of engines. And there's the other half of the Y coming back in. And we are pulling up right next to the Cannonball set that we tried to get off the Penn earlier today. But at least I'm catching up with it now, albeit parked. But it's still something. And here we go. We did it! 7 hours, 10 minutes, and 42 seconds. We rode the furthest distance, Waterbury to Montauk. It has been done. Shout out cab car mid-consist, even though I wasn't able to go in the cab, but that's besides the point. We did it. We did the elusive Waterbury to Montauk in 7 hours, 10 minutes, and 42 seconds. What a trip this has been. Kind of have to wrap this up since I'm running out of battery fast, but a lot of firsts for me on this trip. It was my first time on the Waterbury branch in its entirety. Furthest distance I've covered so far on Metro North between Bridgeport and Grand Central, even though I've been on that branch plenty of times. It's usually been on Amtrak or usually on shorter distances. And first time I did the Montauk branch in its entirety, albeit between Babylon and here, but I have done Babylon to Penn Station plenty of times before. So, past my descension, finally leaving the Montauk platform. I don't know why they brought it this far out, why they need to ramp this long, why they didn't extend the platform closer to the initial head house, but oh well, I guess we could use the exercise here and there. But the point is, we finally made it. So overall, the combo ticket is a very, very handy tool that you could use to go anywhere from Metro North to anywhere on Long Island, because they're both owned by the MTA. And in this particular case, just for the sake of riding trains, you can use it for any purposes, whether it be for work, business,
or just because you have nothing better to do on a Friday, because that combo ticket can take you from the scenic places of Connecticut, from the Montauk River, all the way to the very last mile of rail in the state of New York. All right, let's get some food.